Hello everyone, hope you had a great Christmas. This is a video that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. If you're familiar with this channel, you might know that quite a little while ago I made a video on Young David, which is a series on the Angel Studios streaming service, which told little stories about King David in his youth before he became king or even before he took on Goliath. I absolutely love that series. It's so well written, it looks gorgeous, but most of that video was about an upcoming movie that Young David was a prequel for. That movie has now come out and it's called David. You may have heard of it. So given how much I loved Young David, I was really looking forward to this movie, and I can tell you now that it did not disappoint. So in this review, I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. You know, I'm going to share my own opinions, but I'm also going to be honest. That being said, I'm going to start this review with a pretty subjective statement, and that is that David is my favorite movie of all time. It really is just my all-time favorite movie. I absolutely loved it. The visuals, the voice acting, the music, I just loved it all. So much. And this is coming from someone who usually hates Christian media. I never watch it, but this is different. I was beaming the entire way through. I know I said I was going to try to get this review out as soon as possible, and I really did try, but that was a while ago. A lot of things came up, scorching heat, personal issues, forgetting that I had not bought any Christmas presents, filming the video only for the audio, not to record, but now I'm determined to get this video done. So let's get into my review for David. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, this movie starts with David being chosen by God to be the next king and follows him as he faces internal and physical opposition. It does feature the classic David and Goliath story that you probably know him best for, but it goes way beyond that and offers insight into not only what happened before that, but also the myriad of events that happened after. One of the things I really like about this movie is that you don't need to be a scholar on 1 Samuel to understand it. On the contrary, in fact. Especially at the beginning of the movie, they take care to give a lot of context to the audience. Who these people are, why they're a threat, why Israel needs a new king. It's clear that the filmmakers really understand David's story, and they care that you understand it too. This movie never feels like a sermon, thank goodness, but it does feel like a Bible study, in the sense that it offers a great deal of insight into a story that you think you know already. All the characters are really well fleshed out and developed, but they never contradict scripture. So in that sense alone, it's a really good introduction to the story of David. So there's no need to worry if you're going in blind. Now, one of the first things I'll mention, because it's one of the most obvious things about this movie, is the visuals. They are gorgeous. The animations are really lifelike and full of expression, the landscapes are pristine, and the design is meticulous. There are so many beautiful little details in this movie, it's incredible. I've been following a few of the artists that worked on this movie, and it's amazing the amount of research they've done. You should definitely check them out. Every scene in David seems to be living and breathing. And for such a small studio, it's amazing what they've done. I can imagine a few people coming out of this theatre thinking it's a Disney movie. I got a comment from one of the animators that watched the Young David video, so if they or any of their colleagues are watching, thank you so much for working on this movie. It is so evident how much work you have put into David. And that goes for anyone who worked on this movie. Thank you so much. Now, one thing that you may have heard about this movie is that it's a musical, so it's pretty important that the music is good. I love the music. I've got the songs on all my playlists. I've been listening to them for months. I can't get enough of them. My favorite song is Shalom. I bawl my eyes out every time I listen to it, with Why God, My God being a very close second. I turn the volume up dangerously high when I listen to that song, like I actually probably shouldn't do it medically. But that being said, music is incredibly subjective and these songs aren't going to appeal to everyone. For example, if you go into the theatre expecting the songs to sound like the Prince of Egypt, you're going to be disappointed. And that's not to say the songs are bad or even not awesome, they're just different. And hey, if you do end up despising these songs with every fibre of your being, they are relatively few and far between. So yeah, if you love Disney songs, these will be right up your alley, you'll be singing them all day. And if you hate musicals, the songs don't detract from the movie too much. So in my opinion, it really strikes a good balance. I really love this movie. This is exactly how Christian movies should be made. One of my favourite quotes of all time comes from Martin Luther, who says, "The Christian shoemaker does his duty not by putting little crosses on the shoes, but by making good shoes, because God is interested in good craftsmanship." And this movie is one of the best pairs of shoes I've seen in a long time. The voice acting in this movie is on point. Everyone brings such emotion and character to these roles. Phil Wickham, who has never voice acted before, brought tears to my eyes. And another thing that this movie has is great role models. I don't have kids, but if I did, I would really hope that my boys would look to David and Jonathan in this movie and see the courage, selflessness, and kindness that they display and emulate that. Obviously, not everything David did was amazing, and I'd have those conversations later, but if you're looking for a movie to positively influence your kids and teach them to be brave, merciful, and self-sacrificial, then I have a feeling you'll like this movie. Now, to reiterate, this is my favorite movie of all time, but I also said I was going to be objective in this review, so let's be objective. Just so you know, there's going to be light spoilers in this section, like literally the lightest spoilers you could possibly imagine, so if you don't want to hear any of that, just jump to the timestamp that I'm holding in my hands. All right, let's go. Now, one thing about David, it has one of the most tightly packed scripts I've ever come across. Pretty much every single beat is just bang, bang, bang the whole way through. And David is anointed, and David has to play before King Saul, and David has to fight Goliath. And it's obvious why this is the case. There is so much that happens in the story of 1 Samuel. There's a lot that needs to be in this movie, and for the most part it works out fine. The first half of the movie is a lot of stuff that people are pretty familiar with, even if they do expound a lot on them. So I was able to follow along pretty much with everything that was going on until David went into the wilderness. And even then I was never lost. I was never at risk of being lost. It was just a bit of not being as sure what was going to happen next. But looking back on it, I do have a couple of theories as to why that was the case, and I don't think it had anything to do with anything wrong the creators did. My first theory stems from the fact that 1 Samuel, especially the last little bit of it, is stacked. So much happens in it, you have no idea. The movie could have easily been another hour long and still not have covered everything. And when you compare that to the former half of the story, i.e. David and Goliath, that's a lot more straightforward. You know, I read 1 Samuel a lot in preparation for this movie, and I had a pretty good idea of how that part was gonna go. After David grows up, I had no idea what they were gonna cover. It was anyone's guess. They could have included anything. So I think what happened is that I just came from part of the movie where I was so sure of what was gonna happen, and then I got to a part where literally anything could have happened. There could have been a damsel in distress, there could have been feigned madness, there could have been spooky ghosts. The sky's the limit. There is so much in 1 Samuel. So in a way, I guess it was kind of immersive, you know? In a sense, I was with David in the wilderness, having about as much idea as he did as to what was going to happen. And I really don't think this section of the movie could have been handled any better. I don't think they picked any of the wrong parts to include. I mean, I would have liked spooky ghosts, but you know. If they'd included any more, it would have been far too long. And I think what that comes down to is the fact that any movie based on the Bible is really just going to be either an introduction or a study. A simple case of the movie is amazing, but the book is better. My other theory is that I just watch the clips too much. Over the past several months, Angel has been dropping these clips of like songs or scenes from the movie, and I have just been gobbling them up like a common swine. They would drop a new clip and I would watch it 10 times daily. I knew the words to all the songs. It was a little bit much. So I think what happened is that when I eventually watched the movie, my brain would go, oh, you've already seen this part, you can just skip over it. And I would have to go, no, we're watching the movie. You have to pay attention to the movie. Don't skip that. Don't skip that or else you're not gonna know what's happening. So yeah, if you've been watching the clips as much as I have, don't think that it's gonna ruin your experience of the movie. Look at me, it clearly didn't ruin it for me. But if you haven't seen the clips yet, I would recommend you go and see the movie before you watch them. Now, one common question that I see a lot of people asking is it appropriate for kids? Obviously, 1 Samuel itself is heavily edited in Sunday school, but does this movie do the same? Now, I'm gonna be going into light spoilers again, very, very light. I'm gonna be as light as possible, but if you don't want any of that, just skip to this timestamp. Okay, let's go. Now the answer to the question, is this kid friendly, really depends on the kid. You know, when I was a kid, I was scared of Elf, Back to the Future, Tinkerbell's Secret of the Wings, but I think the closest comparison I can make to this movie in terms of kid friendliness is The Lion King. If your kid can handle The Lion King, they should be able to handle David. This movie centers a lot around warring tribes, there's a lot of threats of death. Thankfully, a lot of the violence is implied, there's no blood or gore. One secondary protagonist does die on screen, but it's done very tastefully and you don't see anything. A few very minor characters die off screen. There is a lot of brandishing of swords and getting very close to killing people, and the Goliath scene was a little bit more full on than I expected. You know, from the way that the trailers made it look, I kind of thought that, you know, David was going to throw the stone and it would cut away to everyone's shocked faces and then his helmet would fall to the floor. But no, they full on showed the stone hitting his forehead and it's stuck there, like it doesn't move, it doesn't fall. There's no blood, there's no gore, but when I watched it with a group of friends, we all kind of just sat there in silence, stunned. I can't believe they actually showed that. Also, the Amalekites are featured quite heavily in this movie and they are quite terrifying. I would have hated them when I was little. There's no bad language, and obviously a lot of the icky parts of the book have been cut out. The consensus seems to be that this movie is good for kids 6 years or older, and that sounds pretty good to me. And with that, having finished the formal part of my review, I am officially done with being objective. I absolutely love this movie so much. There are so many amazing qualities that make David my favorite movie of all time. The animation, the music, the voice acting, the story. But there's an almost indescribable quality about this movie that sets it apart from any movie I've ever watched. I sensed the same in young David and it was instantly endearing. This movie was made with so much palpable love, and it shows itself in every aspect of this movie. I love watching a film and knowing that someone sacrificed so much to bring it to life. Because when they do, you can sense it. To the creators of this movie, if any of you are watching this video, your efforts were not in vain. Thank you for trusting God through it all, because I'm sure there were some real black moments on this journey. Creating this movie was a giant task, but when you stood to confront it, you weren't alone on the battlefield. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad I was finally able to do this video. What do you think about David? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, but just remember it's cool to be respectful. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe and send it to someone who you think would be interested. Once again, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful rest of your day.